Hi, it's Debbie Williams here. I'm a Birmingham-based NLP trainer and hypnotherapist, and today I'm going to talk about self-harming and also include a free short hypnosis trance that if you're suffering from it, then it may help lift some of the pressure that you're feeling and the desire to self-harm. Now, first of all, I'm going to explain a little bit about self-harm and perhaps why people fall into this pattern. See, sometimes things can get so overwhelming that a way to sort of relieve that stress is through cutting yourself or doing some sort of self-harm, because what happens then is the body releases endorphins. Endorphin is our own natural opiates. It stands for endogenous morphine, i.e. heroin, and so our body releases this chemical which gives a feeling of calmness and helps drug the person through whatever trauma it is that they feel that they can't cope with. And if we think about it, in our history, we've learned that sort of hundreds of years ago that they would cut to let go of bad blood and bad humours, as they called it. And part of this was to do with the belief that if you allowed the blood to flow out, then along with that it would release all the negative disease and whatever. And I think one of the reasons that caught on is because people would get the placebo effect because of the body's own natural release of endorphins that made them believe that something was happening and a change was happening. And so then they linked that, oh, this is working. And every drug that's tested today is tested against a placebo, which is something like a sugar pill that doesn't have any qualities to it. And for a drug to be passed, it only needs to be a couple of % more effective than a placebo. And placebos many times can be 30% effective or more, depending on who's giving it. If a doctor's giving it, we give them our belief that they know what they're talking about, and we bow down to their authority, and so our brain goes ahead and follows suit with whatever suggestions that they give them. My granddad was told, after he was operated on nearly 40 years ago, they discovered he got so much cancer that they couldn't do anything. But they told him, we've done what we can, you can go home. And they didn't tell him that he was riddled with it. So he believed that they'd mended him, and his body went ahead and started to shrink the cancer. And when they called him back 6 months later and couldn't believe why the cancer had shrunk, but that was due to the power of belief and the doctor's suggestion and how he interpreted it. See, when somebody has self-harmed and they've had that slight sort of release, it's not sort of a euphoric like taking opium to the extent of getting off your head kind of thing, but it's enough to change your state of mind into a better frame of mind. And then the brain learns that whenever a trauma comes up, to link back to that. Now, this is a bit simplistic way to explain it, because also there's lack of self-esteem is fueling it underneath as well in many cases. And most of us go through phases where our self-esteem isn't that great, and this can unbalance us, especially if at school somebody said something to a child and they feel inferior or they don't feel that they fit in. Then if they've started self-harming, then that can be a trigger then to go and cut themselves because somebody's rejected them, and so they're doubly rejecting themselves by causing this pain. But it also then releases the endorphin, so it changes the state. So that's how people get hooked into it. Now, on the link below, I'm going to put a link to my free hypnosis download, which is called Stop Worrying, Create a Wonderful Life. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to cure self-harming, but it'll go quite a way to lift some of the stress. It's also an excellent one if you're a person who self-harms and you are sort of in your teenage years, because there's stuff there that you can dump all your worries into a worry buster machine, and then later on it can be transformed into a quantum learning machine, and you can use it to program sort of greater success of seeing yourself sort of walking out of an exam room after doing an exam and with a smile on your face that lets you know that you were able to write everything that you needed to get the best result. Plus I've got other videos on that as well. So if you sign up for that, you'll get that, which is free, and also my monthly coaching emails, which pretty much is setting a goal each month of what do I want to achieve this month, what did I achieve last month, what went to plan, what didn't, so we can set some strategies in place to take you out of this and have other ways to deal with your emotions rather than using self-harming to get through it. Now, when I've worked with a lot of clients with anorexia and self-harm sometimes go hand in hand. And there's this self-punishment and there's the internal voice that drives you to do it. Again, on my website, linked below, there's lots of videos there, or on the YouTube channel, about sort of negative thoughts and how to process those. So there's a lot of information which can help you that doesn't cost anything. And then after that, if you felt like you needed more help, I've got downloads that you can buy. Stop OCD, which is about an hour-long program which again processes OCD type thoughts, or Overcome Anxiety, or the Stop Panic Attacks, More Self-Esteem, Ultimate Confidence. Any of those is like having a therapy session, but the beauty is you can listen to it over and over and process through things to help move you forward out of this habit. I remember one lady who came to me, her habit of self-harm was pulling out every single eyelash, and she was driven to do this because of a feeling of being unclean. And then as soon as she got every eyelash out, she had this euphoria of feeling clean, and then the horror of, oh my God, what have I done to myself? It's going to take months for them to grow back. And again, with her, what I did was interrupt the pattern so that she had other ways that she could get these good feelings from. And on that note, I'm going to do a short trance and plant some of those suggestions in for you. In fact, I don't know whether to do a trance on a separate video because I've spoken now for 7 minutes. No, I will do a little trance. So, and there are other trances on my channel that you can listen to that are all about feeling good. So I want you to just take all the time that you want to relax, and maybe close those eyes as you take a deep breath in, and then let it go. And each inspiration can feel like clean, fresh air going on the inside to give you the insight to answers to your problems. And each exhalation, imagine, if you would, like a dark, dirty there, letting it go of all of the stuff that's making you feel bleh. And each in-breath, notice how your body appreciates it as you imagine taking that air all the way down into a vase in your tummy, and you're filling up that vase so that you're learning to breathe again the way that you did when you were a little baby. See, babies naturally breathe from their tummy. They use their full capacity of their lungs. And sometimes, as we grow up, we forget to breathe as deeply because we get stressed and we hold on to our breath. And that's a natural thing that will protect us to get us out of fear, but happening on a day-to-day basis is counterproductive. So it's time to learn to breathe deeply. And this alone can start to neutralise some of those anxious feelings. Maybe taking up a hobby like yoga, Pilates, or Tai Chi, or anything that involves deep diaphragmatic breathing can help you to calm down. And see, exercise also is a fantastic release of endorphins. Even just rushing for 5 minutes or bouncing on a trampoline up and down for 5 minutes. I say to many clients, just measure on a scale of 1 to 10 the crappiness you feel at the moment, new word, and if it's an 8 or a 9 out of 10, just go and bounce on a trampoline or run up and down the stairs for 5 minutes, and then reassess where the number has dropped down to. And see, many studies have been done on exercise that have shown that it does relieve stress and it does help you to move on. And I want your mind to almost get obsessive about these next few questions. And the questions are, what must I do to make my life better and myself happier? What must I learn to move on What must I learn to make things better? And see, my friend Paul McKenna was telling me that when he did one of his books, he interviewed many millionaires. And one thing he noticed about them, that they were very, very calm. And he was asking them, well, don't you worry about anything? You're managing millions, yet you seem very, very calm. And what he discovered is that these millionaires use a worrying strategy with a third step. See, we all worry. It's part of nature, but it's kind of planning in reverse, because you're worrying for the worst case thing that's going to happen. And if you carry on worrying about that, you're taking your focus off solutions. And what these millionaires would do, they'd have an idea of something that they wanted to sort out, or a challenge came to them. They'd look at everything that could go wrong and they'd process that. And that's kind of what we do. We worry and we get stuck there. And then the third step was that they think, right, what is the solution for every one of these issues? And they go through each one systematically and think, well, that's the worst that could happen. And how would I deal with that? What could I do to lessen the impact of that if that ever happened? And they systematically would go through a process. And over time, through practice of doing this, they just do it instinctively, almost unconsciously. And what if for the next month that you did this, that you wrote your worries out on paper, and then you worked through and thought, well, what's the solution? Is there one solution comes to mind? What's the first thing I could do? What's the second thing I could do? What's the third thing? And anything that you can't come up with an answer, agree to dump it in the Worry Buster machine, which is on the free recording, and allow your brain to go through thousands of ways that could help you to come up with some solutions. And I want to thank the part of you that does push you to self-harm and invite it to look at the hundreds of ways that you can keep the benefits that any of this behaviour has done, but that can actually allow you to feel more at one with yourself, more at peace, more relaxed and happier. See, where would you be a year from now if you were 50% happier? And the more you think about that, the more your mind understands, well, that's where I want to go. And so you get what you focus on. Try not to think of the colour blue, it's there. Try not to worry, it's there. Let's take that worry and process it and look for solutions. Let's take those triggers that make you want to self-harm and write them down and process them. And on my website that's linked to this, there's worksheets on the negative thought tab where you can process this. You can write out all your worries on negative patterns on little post-it notes and then ask these specific questions which will take you through a process that will help you to evolve these worries, because it said we have 60,000 thoughts a day and many of them are the same old, and it's our brain trying to say, oh, remember this, remember that, remember. And when you capture it down on paper, you can realise that actually, shut up brain, I've sorted this one out. You don't need to keep repeating. You're like an old nag going over and over and over. And this is where you then start to take the reins and have mastery over your own mind. And one of the greatest gifts that I feel when I work one-to-one with clients, and one anorexic lady comes to mind, that she's only 15, yet in the time that we worked together, and it was quite a long time, I said to her, you have got an emotional maturity now because you know how to run your mind. And there are many people 3, 4, 5 times your age who have not mastered that. And so the world is your oyster and you can take this forward. So please take the time to invest in yourself. And I'm going to put some links below to some of the products that I do that you may be interested in, the self-esteem, the ultimate confidence and some of those. But you don't have to buy them now. You can go through the freebies and then, if you like what I do, then invest in yourself, because it'll be the best money that you've ever spent. And it's great talking to you today. Bye now.